So I'm getting the impression that the beginning part of it was a nurturing thing for you, but then when the shaking and the anger started, it was something different. Is that accurate, do you think?
Yeah, it felt different, yeah.
Mm. So the transition from one into the other, that interests me. So did you see what thoughts were happening, what stories were going on when you moved from crying into shaking? I'm putting the shaking and the anger together a bit.
It wasn't shaking, it was vibrating.
Vibrating, yes, yeah. So would you tie up the vibrating with the anger?
Yeah, I don't know if it's anger. That's an assumption maybe. It felt more like power, energy,
Power,
like
yes. Good
I
power.
want to destroy things. It felt like simultaneously I felt big and small at the same time.
Yes, yes. Okay, yeah.
I want to destroy things, but I can't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But you felt able to if you were inclined. You know that sense of power enabled you. That was not something you experienced very often, eh? That power?
No, I never felt this kind of power. I always felt small, hiding.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
So was the crying, the initial crying, was that like hiding, don't hurt me kind of crying?
yeah,
Yeah. And then that changed into power. I'm able to easily
yes.
defend myself.
It 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 was like it's not like I can, but that I want.
Yes, yes.
It's
Yeah, I
like a
understand that. Yeah.
desire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I can remember being bullied in the schoolyard, and I had this fantasy that I would punch the bully in the nose and I would hurt his nose. I would hurt his nose, I would make it bleed, but I could not do it. I could not bring myself to hurt him. Even though he was hurting me, I could not bring myself to hurt him. It just was like, I don't know why. It was just wrong or something. I don't know. But it was like, yes, I stopped myself and I just accepted what was happening to me rather than hurt him in retaliation. Yeah. I was very young. I don't know how old I was, but I do remember that. Yeah. So like having the power to do something and then not letting yourself do it or not needing to do it or not just not doing it is something that I can relate to. Yeah. Does it seem to you like the whole thing from start to finish was to do with being bullied?
Yeah, it has some relation to it. It felt like the crying part at some point felt like feeling sorry
Yeah.
that I wasn't be able to stand up for myself.
Yes, and please don't hurt me.
It's like I felt that I let myself down or I didn't protect myself.
Mm. And then
It was like an apology or something.
yep. Yep. Mm.
That's very good because I didn't get everything, but what I got, it's you had some emotions, and after there was a vibration with a sensation of strength. Correct? That's they got.
Yeah, yeah, it felt like frozen anger maybe or something.
Yeah,
Start
because
to,
what's happened, you know, with animals and with all of these nervous systems theory about trauma, it's when you're in a situation where fighting or flying away or running away, it's impossible. Your nervous system freezes, right?
yeah,
So the sympathetic system, the nervous system sympathetic, it cannot express all of this energy to run away or fight. So it just blocks everything, and you are freezing. And often it's in the freezing that there is a lot of emotions. So when you feel those emotions that are in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a different part, you switch when you stay with it enough, you switch to this sympathetic one, which is a more animal one. It was the one who wanted to fight, to kill, to run, to destroy, to just do something with the body. So this energy can come up within you. I'm just saying this because if you feel this energy, don't be scared. You know, don't be fear of it, and don't judge it. It's really good to feel this vibration, this energy that come up, and just feel it. You know, it's
yeah,
a very,
it was
very
enjoyable.
good. Yeah. Oh, good, great.
Yeah, I think the significant thing was the transition from the helpless to the powerful. That movement is it's like that's a kind of a discovery for you. This is
Yeah,
not,
it was surprising. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And another thing that I think is very significant is that this is happening for you at a very fundamental level. This is not intellectual at all. This is your body expressing this. This is great. This is good stuff. Yeah. Mm.
I feel like this energy wants to express itself somehow, but I don't know how.
Yes, it's such a
It
new thing,
feels,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, it's like I don't know what to do with it. Um,
Well, is there assumption that you have to do something with it?
no, it feels like it
Yeah.
wants to move,
It feel like it
to
wants
do
to,
something.
yes, because there's a lot of energy involved, isn't there? But yes, but a lot of that energy is a release of energy that's been bound up in the body, and now it's able to express itself. That's pretty significant. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very good because uh, you can express it. You can hit pillows, you can push walls, you can run, you can do many things with it. It's very good if this energy can find some resistance from outside in a healthy way. Of course, it can be very interesting. That's great. That's a really, really big shift. Yeah, it's a complete. It's another dimension now. It's nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it feels different.
yeah.
Mm. How have you been, Eric?
Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, good. Nothing really to report or relate, but just thought I'd listen in.
You know, since you've been back, you look younger to me. Something has changed in your expressions or something. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, you look a lot fresher and younger than you
Ah,
used.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been, it's springtime here, and a lot of work outside. You know, when the ground's soft, it's easy to work. So I've got a like about a half-acre garden that I've dug up, and yeah, it's just a lot of tending to things,
Mm. Yeah.
catching gophers.
Okay. Yeah. 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 There's a lot of activity. The whole world kind of wakes up in springtime, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, actually here, this, you know, in the United States, I actually kind of starting to kind of tune this stuff out, but boy, sometimes I was just watching some, you know, some of the political stuff going on, and I just came out of me. It's like, you fucking assholes, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's, is I don't understand it. It's just crazy stuff. And I even have a good friend that I just can't understand it. You know, how someone that I did things with for so long, and I found out this is like this Trump admirer. It's like, why? You know, it's just crazy stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You probably will never understand it because there's no logic to it. It's
Yeah.
not a case of, it's all emotional. There's no logic there. Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
And my reaction to it wasn't like, I wasn't even thinking about it. It's like this people came on the screen and I just says fucking assholes, you know, it's like,
Yeah,
so much emotion that just don't really want to go in that place, but definitely happens.
yeah. The probably the only good thing I can find in a lot of that stuff is that it triggers stuff in us that it gives us stuff to work with. Yeah, there's not much else that's good there. I think sometimes.
Right.
Well, even so, even in Australia, you know, the politics here is just crazy. You know, we will follow America wherever they go. How stupid is that? You know, yep, we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very stupid.
Yeah.
From an insider.
Yeah. Even if Trump gets in, we'll still follow them. We'll still be their lackey. I just cannot get my mind around it. Yeah. So it's that perplexity is where the value is, you know, like that need to understand or desire to change it. That all of that stuff is what comes up. That's of value. Yeah. Interesting. It's like the whole world has moved down to a survival level everywhere. Yeah.
It does seem dangerous for the well-being of the world. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough with the people that are in now, but if Trump gets back in, good heavens, what could happen is just phenomenal. But hey, we don't need to get into those stories. They can be consuming. Yeah. But in Germany now, Lennart, there's a bit of a right-wing government taken over there.
Yeah, I think it's happening all over Europe because now even in Portugal, which was always like the country where they had like a socialist government, now they also have a right-wing party.
Yeah. So it just
So-
seems to me that the whole world is operating out of fear. That's why those things can happen, you know. So we're just all very afraid all the time, you know. And of course, they get in by promoting fear, don't they? They, you know, the conservatives here just push fear mongering to the maximum when it comes to voting time. Yeah. And it's human nature, it seems to be human nature to be much more responsive to fear than to good stuff. You know, you can have 10 lots of good things and they don't add up to one bit of fear. Yeah. And something that seems to be part of what we're doing here is to be liberated from being controlled by fear. You know, being liberated from the conditioning that and especially the cultural conditioning. Yeah. You're very quiet, David. Do you hook into what stories about where the world is heading?
Someone knows where all of this is heading, and I don't know. I have no idea where all of this is heading. But the supposition that we have choices, it's interesting. Like, yeah, if there is two presidents or two candidates, there's an illusion that if I choose one or the other, things will change. But are you sure? I mean, this is a choice
Well,
for you. I mean,
I'm an old man and experience
don't-
says things don't change.
I don't think there is really a choice there, and I think there is a lot of clarity that is coming up everywhere, and the clarity is left, right, doesn't change anything.
Mm.
It doesn't matter. This is my take on it, and politics is not really what's important.
Yeah.
That's why what is important is happening now in Zooms, in YouTube, in completely different channels, in completely different ways. All of this media and politics, it's okay, still happening, but I feel that what is really important now is have just shift from to other places.
Yep.
And the worries about people are completely different. So yeah, it's a bit a mess, but thoughts doesn't matter which I thought is a thought, right? So I'm choosing my belief. So I choose to think positively. But do I choose it? I don't know. But you know,
Yep. It happens.
that's
Yeah.
it with my take on politics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we're also learning with this stuff, well, learning is maybe not the right word, but one of the things that hopefully is getting revealed here is that, like, politics is out there. It's not in here. It's just a story. There's nothing there that we can very easily get seduced into thinking that it's real. But for us, it's not real. Is it touching our lives here now today? It's not unless we buy into it.
Well, I disagree a little. I mean, I understand you, but I disagree because politics and the states of the world, it's a reflection of the state of humanity. And I am humanity. Humanity is inside me. So I have to take responsibility for everything or nothing. I mean, both it's right, you know, but I think, yeah, that what's happening everywhere, I have the same, I felt those last days, I felt in me that I have the whole spectrum of humanity inside me. The whole behavior of humanity, from killing to saving babies somewhere, I have all of it inside my experience. And I could really see that sometimes I feel a very strong anger, for example. And I could say, yeah, if you put me in a certain position, I could kill, because it can happen. And I'm very, very nice and kind also. So if you put me in another context, I can be very nice and seemingly open to the world. But it has nothing to do with me specifically. It's really, I have the whole humanity in me, all the behavior. So I see that each time my mind kind of judge someone else, a politician, someone who steal or whatever, I see, oh, but I would have done the same within these mindsets and the context. I would have done the same. So really, who am I to judge? Really, like judgment, it's really impossible.
Mm.
There is opinion, but so in starting to really feel this kind of peace with all of the thoughts and the behavior that emerge in my day-to-day experience, because I see that it's really a consequences. It's just happening. Because I'm very interested in freeing everyone, from my jail, from my thoughts, my judgment jail, inside. This is my mother, Trump or Biden or Swiss president, who knows, I have no idea who he is, but or this one, I don't know. But I want to free everyone,
What happens for you at a experiential level when you find yourself thinking about, say, what would happen if Trump gets elected? Does such a thoughts occur to you?
No, I don't think about president. I'm kind of very curious about this transgender discussion. How you say it? People who are men and want to switch
yes,
gender to man to
transgender,
woman, or
yes,
opposite,
yes.
and
Yeah.
all of. I'm just listening to this, and I'm fascinated about the confusion that there is in this field. But when I listen to this, and when I watch politics story, what I feel in me, it's fear and confusion. I can feel this kind of tone about the confusion, about how we use words and concepts, or I can hear words and concepts, but have no idea what this concept is inside this person. I have no idea, what, it's a very simple concept, like freedom. Yeah, okay, everyone wants to be free, but what is really is in his mindset, in his whole experience, I have no idea. So, and this is not discussed in a lot of discussion. People use words, but they don't take time to really explore what each word mean to each parties. So the confusion just goes straight away to it's like, wow, it's so fast. Yeah, it's very impressive. And after there is emotion going on after very fast also, which is a lot of fear behind. And so I'm just fascinated to see how fast the confusion and fear is just into the field, and nobody kind of see it or recognize it or want to talk about it. I don't know, but it's just I'm kind of fascinating about this aspect of human nature. We just say words that we have no idea, but it's not communication, and we think that because we talk a lot, there is some kind of communication, but that is not true from our perspective. And I'm kind of, wow, it's huge. And the strange thing is, I have no idea what to do about that, because what it's just what's happening seemingly. So
Yeah. You don't feel, I don't imagine you feel the need to do anything. It's just a curiosity about what comes up, eh?
No, I don't. Sometimes I like to think like how as a humanity, as individual, we can find a way out, you know. But I don't think about it. I just feel that the only way that I see is non-duality, is understanding the basic principles of non-duality, and that's enough.
Mm.
And that's my perspective on it. And I think when it's a story, but my belief is that people are kind of starting to feel these are not a person, right? It's kind of forming up, you know, in all of us. But they with these stranger things of woman and man, they confuse. Oh, I'm not a man, therefore I must be a woman, you know, or the opposite, you know.
Mm.
But they don't see that there is an option that you are neither.
Yeah, or both,
So
or whatever. Yeah,
or both, or really doesn't matter if you do it or not. But I mean, it just removes the whole emotional
yeah. But you
conflict.
you don't judge them, do you? See, that's the thing. You don't judge them. You don't say that there's something wrong. I imagine.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
no.
No, absolutely not. I mean,
But a large
I have
part
my
of the
whole
world
methods,
does,
you know. Yeah,
and they respond to that, even if it's
exactly.
imagined judgment. They respond to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Of course, there are many cultures where there are people who are both genders or neither gender. And they're accepted in many cultures as well. Yeah. It's not an issue. And in the West, of course, they get judged and it becomes something different again. But just like homosexuals gets judged, you know, in a lot of countries, it's seen as threatening particularly for conservative people. They get threatened. You know, when I was young, it used to be that everybody thought that every homosexual would try and, how can I say it? They would hit on you. They would try and they would want you to be the same. That was just a ridiculous thing that happened, but that was a predominant thing when I was young, and so people were afraid of them, and so they responded aggressively to them all the time, and a lot of that still goes on. There is still a lot of that around in the world, but
I think it's kind of impossible for the mind to really grasp that it has nothing to do with sexuality or anything.
of course, it's all to do
And
with safety, isn't it?
yeah, it's automatism. You know, many beings just don't see that that's human behavior. It's mechanical.
Mm.
There is no morality behind anything. We think there is morality, there is judgment. It's just mechanic. It's mechanical.
Yeah. It's
It has
created.
nothing to. It's nothing personal. It's like a machine.
Yeah.
Biological
Yep.
and mind behavior that
Yep.
you respond like an animal.
So there've been quite a few psychological studies done over the years that show us that under certain circumstances we're capable of anything. Every one of us, no exceptions. Yeah. And you and I feel the same. Appreciate that under some certain circumstances that I am capable of absolutely anything. So like as a result of that, like you, how can I judge somebody else for being the way they are? Not that I'm inclined to. I don't want to judge them. I see criminals as having a medical issue rather than a criminal issue. You know, always. So, but what I'm leading to, and what that is it's becomes an appreciation that so-called others are really me. They're, you know, when I look at somebody else, I'm looking at a projection of myself, always. But getting to that point, right, it's because when we have others in our life, when we see ourselves as separate from other people, that's when we also have fear, usually. So moving to that place where we don't see others as other. That's the hard one to do, isn't it? So once we let go of our own self, we can also see that there is no self in others. And that's what you were saying about it being a mechanistic process, being human, that it's all to do with conditioning and training, and as well as of course inbuilt abilities and so on. Yeah.
Exactly. And what is interesting, it's I come up with this conclusion because I was suffering. And at some point, I realized that I needed to take responsibility for my emotions, because I realized emotions are not out there, they are here, right? So it's my responsibility. And just when you take responsibility, like you say, you know, like what you see in the other, it's in you, it's really you. You start to take responsibility for your experience and ultimately for the whole universe in a way. And and strangely, the more you take responsibility, the more you see that there is no one responsible. So it's a very
Yeah. It's a paradox, but yeah.
It is very paradoxical always, and this is something that is, I don't know, it's hard to see, but when you start to see it, it's always a dual movement everywhere. Clarity kind of down, you know, like, of course, the more I take responsibility, the more I see there is no one responsible. And I think this is very, very important.
Absolutely, it's a big thing. It's yeah. So how do you feel about this, Lennart? Do you see others as separate from you?
Yeah, that's a good question, because yesterday I had kind of a uncomfortable situation, but very interesting at work. At the moment, I have to train or to prepare my class for a final exam. And most of the people have problems with speaking. So we have to train it. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, you have to plan an excursion together with your partner, for example. And then, yeah, in the end of the lesson, there was like, there were 2 persons left. And one of them is very sensitive, a bit shy, and he's having a hard time learning German. I mean, it's not that easy anyway. So, and the other guy is, yeah, someone with whom I have had various situations. I mean, I think he's kind of narcissist. He doesn't really come regularly to the classes, or he always comes late, or he leaves earlier, or he goes out of the classroom because he's talking on the phone, and he thinks himself to be the smartest, and he thinks he doesn't need those lessons. And it's always like, yeah, this kindergarten here, I'm not really interested in this kind of baby stuff, you know, too cool for school. And the problem is that he himself is standing in his own way with this, strategy, because he can't even say one sentence that you would understand, you know. I mean, it's not, the sentences are not correct, not complete, and the pronunciation is not understandable. So yeah, yesterday he had to interact with this other student, and then he was super arrogant, disrespectful, and he was making fun of the other one and saying, yeah, you don't understand anything, you're stupid, and what a stupid idea, or something like that, you know. But I mean, always in a very wrong way. I mean, you couldn't really understand what he was saying. And then I could feel that this shy student was like not able to manage this situation, and he wouldn't say anything anymore. And also the other students were like, what's going on here? It's kind of like really uncomfortable. And at some point I said, okay, we are going to stop this here. And then I really couldn't see this coming, but I really told him in front of all the others that I won't tolerate this arrogant behavior, disrespectful, and that I don't really see why he has a reason to be arrogant, because he actually is not, and I mean, his way of speaking is not understandable, because he thinks he should not come to the lessons, you know. And I don't like to do something like that in front of other people, you know, like, but I got really angry, and I could also really feel this rage coming up in my body. And I mean, I didn't really say this. I mean, I raised my voice, but I was kind of dominant in this way, you know, but which is not part usually of my personality. But the weird thing was that it was nothing that I had thought about earlier.
Mm.
It happened, but there was still kind of something observing everything. There was like some instance that was very calm while there was a lot of agitation.
Yep.
And that was kind of interesting for me. Then I turned to the blackboard to write down the homework. So I had a moment not to show my face and like to feel into myself a bit. I got quite calm again. And I have to say, I already had a similar situation with him 4 months ago, where he would like always interrupt the lesson and saying like, oh, that's boring, and like distracting everybody from saying things that didn't have to do anything with the content of the class, of the lesson. And then back then I also had to tell him like, you have to concentrate either on this lesson, or if you don't like it, then please don't come and don't interrupt the lesson. And then also he got very angry. Then he went to my boss, to my colleague, and I guess that's also kind of part of his mechanism, because he wants attention. And when you give him this this space, then it will blow up. Yeah, this ego will like extend itself, and then he's talking, and also I have to work a lot and I need a break, and I can't work like 40 hours per week and have conflicts aside, you know, part of that. So back then, for example, he didn't show up for, I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks, and then he started to really participate in the class for a while. Then even he went to my boss telling her that I'm an excellent teacher or something like that. and he drawed a painting for me and gave it to me as a present, which I think is also kind of a more positive way to get my attention.
Can I
and-
interrupt you, Leonard,
Yeah.
a little bit?
Mhm.
Yeah, because I'm listening that you are talking about this person,
Yeah.
his behavior, and the impact in your surroundings and in your life.
Yeah.
But can I invite you to, as you are thinking about this person right now, what do you feel in your body? What
Yeah.
sensation come up?
Mm,
Because I am more interested in you than in him.
Mm.
That's why I'm asking.
yeah, it's like a rush of I don't want to label it now. It's like a lot of energy coming up from my stomach into the
Okay.
lungs.
Can you feel it a little bit? Yeah, feel it. Just we can take a moment for that.
Mhm. Yeah, because I didn't have the moment yesterday to do that.
Exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, it's an energy coming up from my stomach in waves that are repeating themselves. And then it's like, but kind of at the same time, it got stuck here.
Stuck. He's stuck.
Mm.
Can you stay with this sensation of stuckness in the chest?
Yeah, it's quite persistent, but now part of it is going to my feet, like a tickling sensation.
Thickness in the feet. Okay. You said the word persistence. I don't know if you mean that you were trying to remove the stuckness because this
No,
is not, that wasn't-
No, it's just like sometimes when I feel into the bodily sensations, they are changing much more, and I would say it's it has quite a strong intensity.
Mm.
So it's like going on for quite a while.
So now it's tingling in your feet a little bit. It's tingling in your
Yeah.
feet.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of dissolving and more concentrated in my feet now.
Nice in the feet.
Yeah, it's kind of leaving the feet into the ground or something like that.
Okay. Just feel that. Can you feel how your experience is different now?
Yeah.
See?
Mm.
Can you feel the difference?
Yeah.
So what is interesting is is the person you were talking about responsible from this for this sensation that were happening?
No.
No. But there is a story about who is responsible for your sensations and how you feel inside. So can you see that it's only a story that you tell yourself?
Mm. Yeah. The thing is that yesterday, for example, I didn't hold him responsible for his behavior, and I didn't hold myself responsible for my behavior either. I felt really that it was just like a combination of a whole lot of factors that were happening. But for example, afterwards, I felt like my mind was trying to justify my behavior or something like this. And then I could see like, yeah, no, but it just happened, you know? I mean, it's not good or bad. It was just like this, you know? And, but yeah, the thing that is, yeah, of course, I still make the situation or this person responsible for my reaction, kind of. Yeah.
But this is just a thought,
Yeah.
right? But it's interesting that even if you see that it's only a story, there is still a somatic response
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
story.
yeah.
So this is why going into the body and separate the thoughts story from sensation is very important, because in a way it's impossible because they always appear together. But you can start to really feel that the narrative and the story has nothing to do really about the sensation as it is in the moment. So this can give you a lot of freedom.
Yes.
And more in the moment after, you can feel more freedom as the situation reveals itself. You are more in your sensation, and you can maybe find more freedom. That's why I interrupted you to invite you to go more into the sensation.
Yeah, yesterday I didn't have a lot of time during work to feel into it, but I had like 5 minutes or something, and the only thing I could understand was like that the bodily sensation was a sensation that I knew, and I knew it from the several times I was beaten up on the street or nearly beaten up. So it's kind of a flight or fight mode or something. And then I also understood, yeah, but it doesn't have to do anything with this situation right now. But still, my body would react like this. And then, of course, I know that attached to this bodily reaction, there is also something going on in my mind, you know. So, yeah. But interesting, because now that I was talking about it, the same bodily sensation came back. So, yeah.
And it will come back to you over and over and over, and as much as it is needed, until you really feel all of it. You really feel what was stuck in there so many years before. It can go away only if you feel the totality of it. And this is just how it is. And I'm doing this work constantly, so I'm not saying that I've never react. I'm doing this work also in situations that I react, and often with time I see that I can feel it more and more before and after, and sometimes even when it's happening. So it's just, but the process, it's a never-ending process of feeling it.
Yeah, thanks for stopping me.
When you said you did not hold him or yourself responsible, tell me more about that. I found that interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what, I mean, it's actually, it's not a person that I dislike or something.
Mm.
I'm quite sure that this guy has his reasons for behaving like this,
Mhm.
and he doesn't have any other choice.
Yep.
So I'm not blaming him. I'm not really saying, I'm not thinking like it's a bad person or something like this.
Right. Yeah.
And also,
Your body responded. Your
yeah,
body responded like you were in a survival situation.
yeah. So yeah, but at the same time, and in the first situation, like 4 months ago, already I felt the same way. I didn't blame him for his behavior. Really, I mean, of course, I said something, but
Yeah.
then
I get you.
yeah. But at the same time, I didn't blame myself either, because
Mm.
I'm also like reacting. I don't
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of factors that maybe make me do things in these situations,
Mm.
but it's beyond of my control. So but back then, after that happened, I told him, yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have reacted that way in front of all the others. I was just stressed, and I was a bit yeah, because that had happened many times, and I have to be concentrated at work and blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And this time I didn't say sorry. I didn't explain anything because I felt like, no, I mean, it's not about not liking you. It's not about not understanding. Maybe you have your issues as well. But this is my classroom, and I have to guarantee that there is like good atmosphere and that everybody feels in a safe place and things like that, you know. And yeah, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this situation, but it was not like that. The interesting part is not that I have to justify what I did, or that it's good or bad, or that there's someone to blame or something like that. And this is already quite different than it would have been before, I think.
Okay. I'm also interested that you feel the need to have a separate space and time to investigate the sensations, that you can't see what sensations are happening as that's happening in real time.
Yeah, I think I can. But yeah, I would have liked to, yeah, I mean, maybe it's like I feel a bit strange when I go to the teacher's room and I sit down and close my eyes and investigate into my body sensations. But yeah.
But even that is after the event. I'm talking about as it's actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay. I think the difficult thing was that I felt in a way like really this strong energy in my body or whatever it is.
Yes.
But then I had to keep focused on the class, and I had to go on teaching, you know, and that is like a bit difficult to do both things at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel very concentrated in that moment. I felt like a bit confused. So
Well, you said you felt a little like how you felt as you were about to get beaten up at one point. So you're obviously in a survival. Your body at least is operating in a survival mode, but you keep saying, I have to keep control of the class or have to try and manage the atmosphere and so on. Yeah. So I see contradictions, you know, things that making it hard for you to do anything. You're already doing several things at once.
Yeah, I'm not good at doing many things at the same time anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, maybe I mean maybe you also feel you feel that it's difficult when you think about it, but you do quite a few things at the same time every day. You know, you don't have to think about a whole lot of stuff because it's automatic. Even if you were to just quickly identify where the sensation was and then forget about it and go on with the class, but in between words or in between a breath, you know, there would be attention going to where you're feeling and what it is you're feeling without getting carried away by it and having to give it 100% your attention. Just acknowledge it almost. That's all. Yeah. Because these things happen anyway, and if we don't acknowledge them, they tend to control our behavior a bit, especially when it takes us to right to the edge. Like you're in survival mode here, you know, with him, and that makes you capable of all sorts of things that you wouldn't like to see happen. Yeah. Interesting. So you definitely, my original question about seeing others as yourself, you definitely saw him as separate from you and very much an other.
Yeah, of course, because otherwise I wouldn't feel in survival mode. But at the same time, when you have a fight or a conflict with your brother or your sister, you don't question the relationship.
Yes.
And I didn't really question it. I mean, I'm not
You didn't consider consequences. You were just doing what needed to be done at the time.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, I wouldn't say I feel like he's my brother or something, but I know we have already established a relationship, you know.
Yeah.
Is not the same as like a person on the street I don't know, and I feel like frightened by it, you know.
Are they?
I want to ask a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a reaction and a response?
Good question. I don't really know. I haven't thought about this, but I would say a reaction. It's to me, it sounds more like, yeah, it has the action inside of it. Yeah, it sounds more like thinking about how I have to react, and a response seems to be something more arbitrary or like something physical, but I don't know, maybe something else can answer this question. Somebody else?
Well, they both have re in the word, don't they? They react and respond. And react is pretty stark in what it's saying. Spond is a word that's not very common, is it? To spond. the way I see it is that a reaction is going to be instant and automatic, and a response may well be a conscious, considered.
The other way round. Okay.
No, well, as I see it, a reaction is going to be coming from the unconscious or from the body very quick.
I think Leonardo was saying that there was he was conscious of their action at the time. So I was wondering why it is considered our action or our activity. Maybe it was just a response, like a necessary response to the situation.
Well, the fact that that Leonard's body was feeling how he felt as he was about to get beaten up in another situation would suggest that there wasn't any mind stuff involved in it. It was a body reaction to it.
So is a conscious response doesn't have a body sensation involved?
Oh, well, it could
Like
have, but if we're not in survival mode, then we have some more space and to consider, and that's what I would call a response.
A very interesting question. I never really investigate clearly about reaction and respond and everything. But what I'm listening now, I think we have to remember that everything is together, everything appears together. So even if we talk about response or reactivity and the difference, but they can, whatever you think it is, they can both emerge at the same time without conflict. So it's not one or the other. It can be both of them at different degrees of response and everything.
Yeah. I mean, English is a really strange language to start with, and then of course people bring their own meaning to things, and so that makes it even more tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very.
You say respond. Does that word, is that the same respond part as in responsibility? So response is like a version of respond. And so when we say remember, you know, we're going to remember again, you know, which is kind of like owning something, bringing it again, taking ownership of something would be to remember. You know, but this is just playing with words, isn't it? You know, it's not really the technical aspect that's of value to us, but rather how we use those words and what we mean by them.
There is some value in exploring meaning of the words, just like there is value. Like there is a practice that is very powerful. Like if you search the border between two sensations, let's say your hand and your arm, yeah, or your head and your neck, and you search in direct experience where is that the head, the sensation of the head is touching the sensation of the neck, and you search for it, and you get near, but it's never there, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very good because it's a very good thing to dismantle thoughts, or just to see what thought is when you do this with definition.
Yes.
Try to define a word very specifically, and it's just, you know, you can go to Wikipedia and go all your life clicking on other definition, because words are circular, and there is no real limit between what is a sensation and an emotion. But where is the real separation? And you don't find anything nowhere, you know.
Mm, mm.
It's useful only to see that there is no limit, there's no separation between any definitions.
And frequently when I use a thesaurus a fair bit, and I have it set up so that if I have any word, I just have to touch my touchpad in the right spot, and it will come up with a thesaurus explanation of that word. And usually you get 2 or 3 definitions of a word, and they vary a lot. So you can see, you know, our language evolves from common usage. So a word that was originally meaning one thing can 100 years later can mean something quite different. You know, the example of there was a period a couple of decades ago where kids used to say sick when they meant good. Now that's really good, and they'd say it was sick. That just didn't make sense to me to use that word, but frequently we use words that are opposite to their literal meaning in our language. It's crazy, but it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I was reading some very, I mean, there's many great texts about non-duality and everything, you know, but it's true that you have no idea what this specific word in ancient Greece really means.
Yes.
Like really what it means in a experiential way for the
Yes.
person at this period. You have no idea. So if they say life or they say human, you have no idea what they really mean inside you.
Yeah.
So at some point, it's just poesy, you know. For me, that text is like painting, you know. You feel something, and that's it, you know.
It came up recently, the word empty or emptiness, and the original Pali word, Pali, Pali word that the language the Buddha spoke, you know, an entirely different meaning to what we take emptiness to mean. Quite different altogether. Yeah. So yeah, these things are they're interesting, but yeah.
I've always found reading Chinese versions of sutras and stuff. It's just so fascinating. Like why 100 years ago, when philosophers were learning about Buddhism and they picked this word emptiness. In China, they picked this word. It's just the way it's used is like air, like an air conditioner is a yeah. It's like, but you would never say an emptiness conditioner. But in China they do. They say it's a Kongtiao is like a space. And to me, that makes a lot more sense than this word emptiness. It has such a emotional content that why did the Westerners who started looking into these texts pick that word? That just it's interesting.
So the way I understand it, it was originally, as the Buddha used the word, he was saying that it's devoid of an inherent characteristic.
Right, exactly. But that emptiness has a different feel to it.
Absolutely, doesn't it? It feels like an absence or something, yeah, or a
Yeah,
vacuum.
it's and it has like an emotional content too. Whereas the Chinese word that they chose just is they talk about like that same word, like in talking about space exploration. It doesn't have any feeling of like lacking something. It's more like boundless or infinite or
I don't know Chinese very much, but I've got a friend who's a fairly fluent Chinese speaker, and he often points out that the Chinese version of something is because it's a pictorial language, right? That things get described. Their language is a descriptive language, and what they do is they take I don't know, so a bicycle, or this, I'm just making this one up. A bicycle might be 2 wheels with pedals or something like that. So that what they do is that they describe 2 different things put together in order to have a name for something that hasn't got its own name, kind of thing.
Yeah. Typically, like what's really interesting is like some of the sutras, most of the words are single syllables. But
Okay.
when you get to words that are like modern contraptions, they'll, like a bicycle is a self zizingcha. It's like a self vehicle, you know. It's
Oh yeah.
so a lot of work, most 80% of Chinese words are two basic characters together. But it's fascinating that, you know, like that the really complicated stuff being described in like the Heart Sutra, it's almost all single syllable words. Just one character has a meaning, and it's one syllable. It's not like sensation. It's got sensation. The same word in Chinese is a single syllable. So it's just very telegraphic, you know. It's like don't like that.
Yeah. So of course, a lot of our words, words in English are derivatives from other words from different languages and so on. So yeah,
Right.
they don't have that literal descriptive nature. You've got to kind of got to know where they came from, why they are what they are.
Have a theory about something, because Buddhism and Oriental spirituality become very, like, it's growing, you know. It was discovered, I don't know when, and now many people are kind of into Buddhism and other Oriental spirituality. And when I talk with few people, often when I mention Jesus or God or forgiveness or Holy Spirit, of any word that come from the Bible or the Christianity, yeah, I have emotional response, you know. So they do Buddhism, they feel the vacuum of everything, they talk about it. But when you say a word that come from a childhood, from their basic mind programming, which is Christianity, or a version of it, they get emotionally triggered. So the story I build is that because we have a mind in Europe and the West that come from Christianity, we know the language, we know the church, we know God, we know the guilt, the fear, the sin. We have those words and those meaning inside of our system, inside of our body even. And often it's too painful to watch it. So it's easier to go and take some very far away philosophy and just read it, and we can build something on top of it, and we don't have to look about all of those words that are connected with emotions. So we can just watch some other stuff there, and you don't have to watch that. In fact, your whole brain and body is built upon Christian conditionment. You build sin and fear. So it's easier to say all of this doesn't exist. I will just do Buddhism because it's easier. It's feel better. And often I think it's people forget that doing that you can really overlook a huge part of your mind and emotion with it and conditionment.
Mm.
And that's why people, I think, when they went to take other teachings like Chinese or Japanese or Indian or whatever, when you translate it, you can translate it exactly the way you want, right? To avoid everything. Why not? And then you can even build a new church to avoid everything again, you know. So we got to get all together and we avoid everything together. But what we do in, you know, in our spiritual oriented church is better temple of Buddhism or whatever religion they are. It's better than the church that is on the corner, right? They are wrong, but what we do here is better.
Yeah. I saw a good meme. There's like 5,000 different gods, but don't worry, yours is the right one. Yeah. So we do this though with that language. What you're saying, we do that anyway. We do it with our own language. We use thoughts as in our thought language as a way of avoiding, as a way of keeping away from that which makes us feel uncomfortable. Regardless, we don't have to go to a different language to do that. We just use our own for it.
But if you take a picture of Jesus, right? Well, in Europe, there's meaning inside. If you go to India and you put them there, well, just a dude, you know, they have no idea, well, maybe not just a dude there, what's up. But if you do this in Europe, people can have reactions, right?
Yes, yeah.
If you go to your family and you put in your living room, you put a picture of Jesus, see what happens. Yeah. So it's very interesting, you know, because for me, I explore a lot of my spirituality had a really big changing within me when I really restructure all of the words of Christianity, like Holy Spirit and forgiveness and Jesus and God. I'm really feeling I'm in peace with it. I'm in peace when I go to church. I'm at peace with all of this because my impression it's because I really look all of the resistance and the emotion I have with those words. And now I really love it. I really appreciate all of these words. Yeah.
But you've given them a different meaning, haven't you?
Yeah. The meaning is different. Of course, it's always the meaning that we need to change with the words. But I think I don't know, often in non-dual reunion, there are words that are kind of taboo, you know. God is taboo. You cannot say God because it's, you know, it's too low. There's too much behind it, so you don't say it, you know. And I find I just want to name that I find it interesting that all of those words that are connected with Christianity are kind of taboo, you know, like forgiveness and guilt, you know. We don't really touch those words in groups because there's kind of emotion and confusion that comes with it and all of the mess, you know.
Me personally, I avoid certain words simply because they are loaded with 1,000 different interpretations, and the emotive content is so big that with a lot of people that it's not productive to use those words. I don't like the word enlightenment, right, or God, not because that, just simply because everybody's got their own interpretation of what that means. You know, so if we're going to say the word God, are we going to immediately start talking about, are we talking about some bloke in the sky with a white beard? Or are we talking about some universal Gaia energy, or what are we talking about? So yeah, it's easier just to not use that word than to kind of try and sort that out with everybody.
Oh yeah, of course, but I'm sharing this because but I think it's important within us, within our own for individually to explore the world.
Oh,
Not
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the
The time
sensation,
will come. Yeah.
or images, go buy an image of Brahma and put it in your living room, and if you watch it, what do you feel? Do you feel some rejection? You feel some imagination? What's happening? I think this is kind of interesting to work that way.
Mm.
If you say Jesus with in your home, you say Jesus 10 times. What happened?
Yep.
There is a reaction. There is kind of imagination going on, and I think it's valuable.
So one of the things that
Okay.
we are attempting to do with this stuff, though, is to recognize magical thinking, and those icons attract magical thinking. I mean, it's magical thinking to imagine that there's a self in there running the show.
And in that way, okay.
You know?
But I have a question for everyone here, because this is very interesting. Often we say that there is no self, right? There's no, but I don't like this word. I prefer to say there is no individual, or there is no separate self. Okay. But often I think there is a confusion, because I feel there is three things. First, there is no separate self. Okay. Second, there is a sense of me. Yeah. But some people and teacher talk that, the sense of me doesn't exist for me anymore. There is just, what's happening. Just
I call
action.
bullshit.
Yeah. So no. So this is my question, really. What is your take on those three different say? Because yeah, I'm really curious. So for you, Vince, it's the third one, that there is no sense of me anywhere. There is just what's happening, action, and like a rock or
Yeah.
animal. But
it gets a little tricky to describe in a literal way. And it's like choice. Okay, if I look back at something and I try to describe it, then I will have to say that there is a sense of me there at different times under different circumstances. But if I ask myself, as I'm having a certain experience, is there a sense of me there? And there's not a conscious thought that says it's me doing this. Only afterwards, when I look back, could I say, well, I did it. But while it's actually happening, I can't say that I have that experience of it's me doing this.
what you say is like, in the moment, there is not this thought that I am doing this action.
That's right. Yes.
If you look retrospectively, you say, oh yeah, of course, there was me doing this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did it. I mean, even if I'm just using that as language, I did it.
Right.
Yeah. But when I'm guiding, in particular, it's a tricky one. When somebody says there is a sense of me, frequently they say the words "a sense of," but they don't mean that. What they mean is, therefore, there is an actual me. Right. So there could be a sense of me. That is the impression that there is a me. The difference is some people believe it means something and other people recognize it as just a sensory experience.
Yeah, this it's very, because I can see that when someone say, but there is a sense of me, often this, what you say when we explore this is exactly what you say. No, there is a thought about a me. So there's a thought, yeah. And there is perception and sensation that suggests very, very strongly that behind his image there is someone looking, you know. Behind this sensation of eyes, there is someone just behind this sensation. It's just like a strong invitation, or like yeah, interesting. And
So, for example, just before this meeting, I just finished painting my garage floor. At no time did I think I am doing this. There was just activity going on. But I can imagine that if I got really tired, if I got, say, an aching back from doing it, that I might say, I need a rest to myself. I might think that I need to stop doing this because my back is aching. It's hurting me. Under those circumstances, there would be a sense of self. But the moment I consider it, I recognize that it's just an impression. It doesn't mean that there's really a self there. Whereas somebody else might believe that that proves that the self actually exists, that there is a self running the show. It's more than just a sense of, a sensory input of. So for a start, for somebody to say that there is a self there, there is also ownership. They have to own the self. It belongs to. It's a bit paradoxical, isn't it? Because the self belongs to a self. Who does the self belong to? But there is a sense of owning it if they believe that there is a self there.
I feel go on, Leonard, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that there is an image that is commonly used in Advaita literature, and I really like it, or it helped me a bit. It's the image of the mirage in the desert, that when, I mean, you can know that it is a mirage, and you know it is not water, but just the reflection of the sunlight.
Right? You could say it was a sense of water. There is a sense of water there.
Yeah, yeah, and but it won't disappear after knowing that it is a mirage. You will still see it.
Right. And I describe it as, when you believe there's water there, you are deluded. When you recognize that it's a mirage, it's an illusion. It's no longer a delusion. So we live with illusions. We don't expect the illusion to go away. But the moment we consider it, we recognize that it's not actual. Right? Our senses are fooled. In the case of the mirage, it's the sense, our visual sense is fooled.
Is the sense of self an isolated thing, or is it does it rely on other factors like
Yes, absolutely. It relies on
the
thought.
sense, I mean, in experience, like the sense of subject object and the sense of agency and control, the sense of time and seeking. It feels like the sense of self has a lot of it consists of a lot of things, or is the sense of self can be regardless of all these things?
No, no, it relies on that. So the sense of self is a mistaken explanation for a sensory input. And that mistaken explanation has to happen in the mind. So it's always a logical conclusion. A sense of self or a belief in a self is always a logical conclusion. So somebody will
I
say,
feel like it's
I feel like it's here, or I feel like it's here. But what there is just sensation. What makes it into a self is the stories that get attached to it. Without those stories, there is no self. There is just sensation. Sorry, Ramiz, I interrupted you. You feel like what?
I feel like the sense of self is doesn't rely on the thought. I feel it's different.
I think when I want to be clear about what you mean about sense of self, because I see often that people kind of confuse this, this presence, you know, I am this kind of presence with the sense of self. I don't know if this makes sense.
I don't know the difference. It feels like there's an image of what I take myself to be. Like there is a sense of image, like a character. There is an identity, and there's a sense of self. They feel different. Like if I'm not thinking that I am whatever, there's a sense like I'm here watching this. There's no
Yeah,
thoughts.
exactly.
There's no identities or labels or judgments about what happens. There's a sense of me watching.
But
And
this is very interesting, Vince. I want to take on this because this is another question that I was interested in your opinion, all of you. And is exactly what Ram is saying. Because often in LU, we say that there is direct experience and is touching, perception, and sensing, and colors, and all of this. Okay. But there is a direct experience of this unspeakable presence that is here.
No, there's not. Yeah, there
once
is. Yeah, what is direct experience? Sorry, go on, Ramiz, you say. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that I watched Todd, and one of the videos was just guiding this sense of self, the sensation, and he said that focus on the sensation that you think it is you in the head, maybe, and then focus on the sensation on the hand or the leg, and see how you can equally sense both, but why one sensation has the sense of me and the other doesn't. And at this point I saw that they are both are just sensations, are equally sensations, and they are known in the same way. There's no distinction. And it's like, then who's aware of them? And I just stopped
No answer to that
stopped
question.
there.
So who's
Yeah,
aware of them, or what is aware of them, or that that what you said, David, that inescapable sense of presence, right? That still takes a logical conclusion to arrive at an answer to that, right? So if we separate out the absolute from the relative, and it's really important to do this because the absolute is incomprehensible for the human mind, right? We don't know what that thing we call a tree really is. You know, we just have our perception of that. So the moment you start saying, therefore there must be somebody who experiences, that's a logical conclusion. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We cannot know that. It's beyond our ability to understand that one. So because we're talking about the absolute, right? If you and an insect and a dog and whatever you like line up and all look at the same thing, everyone gets a different idea of what it is. Everyone perceives it differently. You know, the insect sees it in the infrared spectrum, and a dog sees it in only 2 colors or 3 colors or something, and we see it in more. We imagine that it has form, what we're looking at. So the direct experience of that is what is coming into our sense input before mind comes along to explain it. But this is a tricky one. You can then go the next step and recognize that what comes into our sense input, even without the mental description, that where we give it meaning, where we give it form, where we say that there's a back to it as well as a front to it, even before we do all of that, our actual input of just color and whatever, color, shape, any of that sensory input, that is also just thought. So we're getting rid of the gross form of thought where we give it labels and we imagine it has characteristics that we don't actually see or can't actually experience. Right. So a classic example is a cup. Take a cup, right? And it has color and shape, but the only way we can call it a cup is to imagine that it has a use. You know, when we say a cup, we imply a purpose to it, that it is a vessel to hold a liquid that we're going to drink out of. That's all imaginary. That's not what our senses. So our senses see color and texture and so on, but even they are our interpretation, the interpretation of our own body. That's influenced by our conditioning, by what we know.
But how? Because this is experience, right? You are talking about what in the way the experience arises. But you know that you are present right now.
No, you don't. You only imagine it. You don't know anything. You don't. There's no such thing as knowing. You can't know anything. All you can do is
I
imagine
don't
it.
know how you want me to. I don't know how you want me to frame it, but you cannot deny that there is an experience. Even if I intend for the
That's a
absolute,
trick
there's
question,
nothing
see?
happening. There's nothing happening, but there's an experience right now, doesn't it?
There is experiencing. I experiencing is happening, but I can't say I know. I can say I believe. I mean, in a dream, you are experiencing something, and it seems very real. But when you wake up, you realize it was only a dream.
Yeah, but what I'm talking, there is an experience. If you take mushroom, it is an experience. You know, if you are sedated and you go to,
Yeah.
there is an experience. You know, if you take maybe somewhere they hit someone in the brain, there will be an experience. So I'm just saying,
Yep.
there is an experience, even if, of course, you can say that there is no experience, there's
But
nothing. But
you've got to stop there.
Yeah,
you-
exactly.
The moment you say you can't deny that there's an experience, you're off in fantasy land. It's a story, right? Because denial is a story, or not denial is a story, right? So what it is, I can believe something, but I can't know anything other than that I believe it because of my experience. So as soon as you say you can't, you're having an experience, there is experiencing happening, yes. Anything else you add to that is concept. Denying it or not denying it, confirming it, it's all concept.
I feel like the mind only reflect a feeling, a felt sense. When there is a felt sense of me, the mind will say there is a me. When there
There isn't
the
a
mind will
felt
say there
sense of
isn't.
me, there is only a felt sense. And it's the mind that says it's a me that I'm feeling. There is no such independent thing as a sense of me. There is only a sense. As soon as you say it's a sense of me, that makes as much sense as to say it's a sense of a dog, or it's a sense of an elephant, or it's a sense of a flower. That makes no sense. Just as to say it's a sense of me makes no sense. It's a belief you've got that it's a sense of me. We can attach instruments to you and we can show that there is a sense. Okay, we see brain activity, we see muscle activity, we see nerve activity. We can see that there is a sense. But to imply that it's a sense of something requires a fantasy to be attached to it. Now I can tell you stories about how this evolved that may or may not be accurate, but we can talk about evolution, and we can talk about primitive man, and we can talk about the requirements for safety and all of that kind of stuff. But that's all just stories. I believe that the idea of a self is just armor. It's just a protective fantasy that we've developed. And what it's all about is protecting us from unpleasant sensations. That's the whole purpose of it in my story. The only reason we've got a self, if you like, an ego, is defensive. And what it's protecting from is also a fantasy, because we don't have any saber-toothed tigers running around anymore. Now, Leonard experienced a safety requirement with that student, but it was based on a previous experience. So he got into a survival mode for a moment there, but it wasn't really required. There wasn't a actual survival involved. And that's what the self is all about. It's all about protecting us from imaginary saber-toothed tigers. I mean, people will kill to protect their reputation. What a joke that is. What's their reputation? It's a made-up story, and yet they'll kill in order to protect it because they like the story that they're protecting, not not the other one. So that
So you're saying,
that
so you're
thing,
saying that
Ramiz, I want you to prove to me in some way, I want you to prove to yourself that that sense of you, that sense of me that you're talking about, is more than just a sense. It's a sensory input. It's a sensation.
Yeah, it's only a sensation, yes.
Yeah. You have to add to it to say it's a sense of me. And it makes no more sense than to say that it's a sense of a sausage.
I mean, a sense of me is a sense of a watcher or
Yeah.
a subject.
These are all
And
sensations that add to the story. Yes. But
it's
there's
a sense,
interpretations of sensation.
I feel like it's an identification that happens
Yes, it is.
regardless of what I'm thinking. Like
Yeah,
I can
be,
say
sure,
that there
yeah.
is a self or there isn't. I can believe whatever, but the felt sense of me being here, watching behind my eyes, I think it's something that I can't change by believing or disbelieving something.
Yes, it's very fundamental. That's true. It is very fundamental.
Feels,
You learned that
it feels
a long
energetic,
time ago.
yes.
Yeah. And you not only learned it a long time ago, but it's been reinforced every day of your life, every hour of every day of your life, every minute of every hour of every day of your life. It's been reinforced and made stronger. But it's still just a fantasy.
When does the sense of self evolved in an individual human being? It seems like it must be. I don't think it really happens. I mean, because people don't have memories of like before 2 years old. Most people don't have any memories of that.
Hmm.
And I think it's sort of something that happens because of memories adding up, and at some point all that comes together.
Yeah, yeah. It
And then
probably starts in the womb even, but there's a certain point at about 3 years old, although it varies for somebody, when
right,
if you were to put a mark on the forehead of a baby without them realizing, and they look in a mirror, right, before that age, they'll just see that mark and their face and nothing happens.
right.
After that age, they'll go, oh, I've got it now. They can actually touch that from looking
Right.
in the mirror. So at that point, and it's not a sudden thing, I'm sure it's a development
Yeah, I think it's a
thing. Yeah. They you can say, well, they've got a sense of me there. There's an identity at that point. So that's kind of yeah. But I'm sure that starts right from the beginning. We now know that babies talk in their head a long time before they actually say words aloud. That they've already got a sense of language, and I'm sure that the language is one of the main contributors to the developing an individual sense of self. Language is what does a lot of it, I think.
I see this in my son. He's almost 3 years, and before when he was playing or doing stuff, he was just saying, for example, running. You know, when he was running, when he was very young, he was just running, saying nothing. But now, at some point, he say, "Rah, running," you know, running.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now he say, "I'm running, I'm running."
Yes,
So,
yes.
so it's just adding words everywhere, you know.
Yeah, but how interesting from the point when he's saying running right? And then somehow at some point there's an evolution and he says, now I am running. Yeah, they're really different things, you know? Yeah. So that language develops this subject object thing. And at that point it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Whereas before that, when there was just running, there is no, it wasn't him running, there was just running.
I saw on television the same experiment with the baby and the point on the forehead, but it was also with a chimpanzee and
Yes.
crow, I think,
Yes.
or a
Yeah.
magpie or something like that.
Yeah.
But the crow could understand that it was seeing itself in the mirror and tried to rip it off with the
Yeah.
wing. So I guess there are also animals who can have kind of a sense of self.
And
I mean,
know,
anyway.
the thing with the crow is absolutely amazing. You know, there's another experiment that's also, you'll find a YouTube one, where they give a crow the exercise to get the food out of the thing, and they give it a short stick that can't reach the food, but there's a long stick in a jar, and they need to use the short stick to get the long stick out to get the food. And the crow can work out, it'll just look at it, and then it goes and gets the short stick. Doesn't even try and get the food with the short stick. It knows it can't reach it, gets the short stick, takes that and gets the long stick out and gets the long stick to go and get the food. And this crow has got a brain the size of a kernel of corn. And it can do stuff that people can do. And some people can't even do that, you know. It's absolutely amazing, absolutely incredibly amazing, you know. So there's all sorts of you know, conjecture that can come from that kind of thing. Yeah. But how do we?
I wonder, because it seems like there's a lot of memory involved, and so my mother had Alzheimer's, and at some point, when you lose memory, I don't think she had a sense of self anymore.
Yeah, you can feel really sorry for people with the beginning of Alzheimer's when they know what's going on. But once it's developed to the stage where they don't know what's going on, that's right. I think they lose that sense of self. Yeah. My mother developed Alzheimer's, and for the last 12 months of her life, she didn't know who I was. She didn't know who she was. She had no idea, but neither was she concerned about it. She didn't have a need to know, you know. And I used to visit her and sit beside her, and we didn't even try and have a conversation. It was pointless anyway. But I just sit beside her and hold her hand, and she just sat there and smiled for the whole hour and just loved it, you know. It was great. And I did too. It was really good. Yeah. It was just.
I think it's very deep what you're talking about, because I feel connected what you're talking about Alzheimer and
Yes, yeah.
about death, you know, because if the person I knew and I connected with is not in that body, I mean, you know,
Yes.
What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to have a relationship with someone? And, you know, it's what is death? I think it's very deep. It's very deep experience that you went through. Yeah.
And brilliant.
Oh,
go on.
I think this to me is like the whole Buddhist notion of no self is as a logical conclusion based on, you know, it gets into Buddhism, talks about dependent or origination, but everything is a conglomerate of things. We're a self is a conglomerate of memories, and when those memories go away, that self is no longer there. There's no a cup can be used, but it has no essential nature that goes on forever. It's,
Hmm.
you can break it into pieces and now it's just pieces. It's dirt and whatever holds it together. This, I mean, if people are kind of the same thing. And so along with that, no self, because it, you know, I mean, if I cut myself up in pieces, I'm no longer, there's nothing eternal or essential about about this body. So that there's that logical interpretation of no self, but then there's also the experience of no self. Like, I don't feel, you know, when you're painting your garage floor, there's no self.
Mm.
There's just painting going on.
Absolutely. So for there to be a self, there has to be reflection. And it can only exist in the mind.
I think it's very interesting to really, for me, more and more to remind myself, but to live the fact that the present moment is never experienced. You know, we talk about being the present, but it's a way, because, like you said, it's a reflection. So the present moment, you never experience it. Like, kind of,
Yes.
you always have echoes of what's happening.
Yeah. So a great question with that one is the present moment, and when we say words like moment, yeah. So is now sandwiched somewhere between the past and the future? That's a great koan to reflect on.
Yeah. But I think that's why I think it's essential to really understand that time happened in me. You know, it's really a mental, it's a mental construct.
It can only be another mental thing. Time.
Yeah, it's a mental, but
Compared to memories, that's all it can be.
It's very connected to space, because everything is happening here, but it's not here a place in the universe. It's just like time. You know, time feels like linear, and I'm here. The now is here moving, and here feel like there is all of this 3D stuff, and I'm somewhere kind of on Earth, there and somewhere. But here is not a place in the universe, in space.
That's
But yeah,
right.
it's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing to kind of exploring.
So when we talk about, I mean, I start with people when I'm guiding. I start with the mental idea that the only thing that is actual from the relative perspective is current experiencing. And it's not until that is grasped fully that we can then say, but even that's an illusion. But we're not going to go there yet. We've got to rest on this temporary place where what we're doing is we're recognizing how pervasive concept is in our life and how much we mistake what is actually conceptual to be actual. Right. For, like, as in a moment ago, Ramiz was believing that his idea that a me was what was having the experience, he believed that was actual. But it's undeniable that there is only the experience. There is only the sensation. Sorry.
I want to say, when people talk about no self, I feel like there is a distinction for me between identity and feeling like a subject. It's obvious for me that identities are just mental constructs. They are just identities. They can change. When I
Identity,
was young, it's
ownership.
different than, yeah, it's like a character. Characters can change, they are not inherent, they are not concrete, they are fluid, they just thoughts. But the sense of subject feels like has different quality. And when people talk about no self, I don't know what they are mean. Like, do they mean identities as characters, or they mean
Well, if they're
being
talking
as a
about no
subject?
self, see, again, it doesn't make any sense. You can't have an experience of no self. You can have an experience of self, but the absence
Well,
of that isn't something you can experience.
the experience of no self is basically just what it's just experiencing. There's no experiencing of self.
Right.
That's
So,
what that is.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a story we bring to the fact that we just experience, and we can then overlay just experience
Right.
with, and it makes equally as much sense that to say, I'm having an experience of not a dog,
Yeah.
no self, not a dog, not a bird,
No,
not a tree, not an insect. You know, they all say exactly the same thing, but it's kind of ridiculous to say any of that, isn't it? Right. So if we express it in the positive, we can say, I'm having, no, we can't even say that. There is experiencing. That's the only thing we can say.
and even that's just conceptual.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because there is implies that it's a thing, when it's in fact
And
ever evolving, nothing you can put in a bottle.
I think it's interesting to formulate it, in the way that confusion always arises first, right? And after you need there is a doing, there is a think, there is a respond to this, you know, and this is the response, it's a negation. But there is always this, oh, this is happening, and there is no, this is not happening.
Yeah.
But there is always the first move, it's always the lie. The lie is always the illusion is always first. And then there is something negating this illusion.
Yeah. So Ramiz was saying that there is a different quality to the experience that he's calling an experience of a self. And I don't have any problems with that. You know, the description of the quality or the characteristic of that sensation. So that's not an issue for me, you know, that you can have it is very one of the characteristics is that it's very convincing. But that's because we make that jump that says, therefore, it must be me. Just because it's a very convincing sensation, because of where it is and the nature of the sensation, but you still have to make that leap to say that it's me. So for a while, why don't you try this experiment? Every time you can identify that sensation, say it's a sensation of a dog instead of it's a sensation of me.
I don't know if this can help in any way, because it's not exactly the same subject, but I recently remembered that when I was a child, I went with my cousin and my sister to a public swimming pool. And then my sister and my cousin used to bully me a bit because I was the younger than them. And at some point I escaped and then obviously there was like a little boy jumping from the 10 meters tower, and he had the same bathing suit as me. So my sister thought that it was me. And then when we met again, she asked me, did you just jump from that tower? And then to make them a bit scared, I said, yes, that was me. And then my aunt came to fetch us, and they told it to my aunt. And then she was very angry because I was very little. And she told it to my parents. And at that point, I could not say anymore, no, it was not me actually, because then they would think that I would lie, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then kind of my parents were kind of proud of me because I was so brave. And then whenever like people were visiting, they told me, please tell them the story how you jumped from that tower. So I had to tell this story over and over again until I didn't know anymore that it was not real, you know. So I remember that recently, and I have a clear physical memory of jumping from that tower, although I never did that, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
that's brilliant. I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's really good.
I really remember it. I could
Yeah.
tell you how I felt, but I never did it.
All memories are constructed. So it's really interesting when you the biology of it, of a memory, is that it's not stored in the brain as a complete little movie kind of thing. Every memory is pieced together from different parts of the brain. Every single memory is constructed. Yeah. So when my dad died, within weeks, my mum had changed her memory of my father. You know, she romanticized how he was during his life. And me and my brother were sitting at the table with her, and she tried to tell us that he never got cranky. And he was a cranky old bastard. He was always being angry. But she had totally changed her memory of him. She really sincerely believed that he never got angry. And yet my whole life he was angry at me. Yeah, so yeah, anyway, it's really interesting that memory is constructed all the time. Yeah. Yeah. That would have been a brilliant story if your parents had taken you back to the high board and asked you to jump off again. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it, how things get away? But but the fact that you can see that memory was constructed is just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that's great. I love it. Yeah. And it's really interesting that these constructed memories are what we've created ourselves out of. So it's really interesting how you often see people who have a totally different idea of who they are to what you think they are. You know, their self-image is always a great enhancement on the way that they really are, or that they really appear to be to us.
Yeah, I don't really know how you call this in English, but for example, when you tell a story and you don't want to tell the whole context because you want to keep it short or a bit funnier, then in German, it's kind of to decorate the story.
Embellish, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and that can also change your memory. I mean, it doesn't
Absolutely.
mean
Yeah,
that it's
you
all
repeat it
alive,
enough times. Yeah.
but
Yeah. An important thing to remember with recognizing that self was a delusion, is now an illusion, is that just like the oasis in the desert, or just like the water on the road or whatever, that those illusions don't go away. They're still there and they're still useful. We never forget. Well, I kind of do forget some things, actually. I've have trouble remembering how I used to be in some areas, but the skills we require to navigate in society, they stay there. We might get less inclined to do it. Couldn't be bothered pretending sometimes, but nevertheless, the ability to do it is still there. We still know how to go to the grocery store. We still know how to do the necessary things to get around in life. They don't get forgotten just because we recognize that self is a story. So I don't even like the idea of no self is a thing. You know, there is a self. It's just made up of stories. It's nothing more than stories. It's a concept. But here's the interesting thing. We respond. And I say respond, but maybe it's react. I have to think about that one a bit more. But we respond to the stories. And that's where our personality comes from. It's the because of the stories that we carry about who we are and the response we have to those stories, that plus our DNA, plus our physical meat suit, all of that affects us. So, because we say no self-like, but that's a shortened version. What we really mean is no inherently individual, separate controller called a self. That's what we mean. We just shorten it to no self, and that kind of changes things a bit if we don't see it as only that.
I wanted to ask something about time, because in my former life, when I was still a chain smoker and alcoholic and taking drugs at the weekend, for example, this really structured my sense of time, you know, like the next cigarette, the next drink, the next party, then having a hangover, recovering from that. And actually, for me, this is like this Buddhist circle of rebirth. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and since I'm not doing these things anymore, I sometimes feel that I'm kind of lost in time, or that I have such a strong notion of time anymore.
Yeah.
And then I think it's like you're always like projecting yourself into the future, or looking for something, or looking forward to something, or desiring something, and that's kind of a movement in your thinking that creates the sense of time.
Yes.
Could be. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because when you just don't do anything and you sit at home, I don't know, you won't have any sense of time, or will you?
I have that problem. I make a big effort to keep a calendar on my computer. I have a calendar. If you ask me what day it is, I look at my watch and I go, oh, it's Wednesday. I set an alarm to go off an hour before my meetings so I don't forget them. So yes, I have a very fluid sense of time. If you ask me what day it is and I don't have my watch to look at or my computer to look at, I have to find a reference point. I have to go, Oh, well, yesterday I put the bins out. So therefore it must be Friday today, because Thursday's the day the bins go out. There's a reference point. But yes, no, that sense of time. And it's you'll maybe I'm jumping ahead a little here, but you will likely also get to the point where a sense of distance can become distorted as well. And so you have to almost consciously remember how to create distance, because the world can become two-dimensional, especially when you get to the 8th feta and you start playing with the obsession with form and formless. So that gets to be the 7th and 8th stuff. Form and formless. Once they start to get questioned, depth perception can flow in and out, can become quite different as well. So like time. So I still watch time travel movies. I like most of the science fiction ones. I like the ones that make me think, or that offer me weird ideas to consider. And time travel does that. But yet, because of my beliefs about time, that in fact it's purely a mental construct, I can't see any possible reality in terms of time travel. And I have not managed to understand Einstein's reference to time, because he talks about space and time interacting each other. So, but I just don't know that one enough to know how to see that. So time has to be purely a case of comparing either two memories or a memory and a fantasy. If we're going into the future, we're comparing a memory of the past with a fantasy of the future, or two memories of the past. So at a certain point, for me, I also lost the ability to remember sequence, the order of sequence. So my wife is really good at that kind of stuff. So if I say, when did such and such happen? You know, what year was it? You know, and she'll always be able to give me a fairly precise answer with those things, not even in terms of years, but she'll say, well, that's when the kids was this age, or that's when we moved to that place, or she has something to compare it to, and she'll know which happened before or after those things, and not, whereas I don't. I go, well, I don't know when that happened, you know. Yeah. So it's interesting stuff.
I have the same relation to time as you. I don't remember time or memories, or I don't know what day it is. Completely uninterested.
It's hardly useful. It's a little bit useful for appointments and so on, but yeah, I just write them down and then I don't have to remember. Yeah. But then I can get into trouble if my calendar doesn't remind me about something. I've got something that reminds me. I've got to chase down sometimes the calendar reminds me and sometimes it doesn't, and I've got to find out why. I don't understand why. Yeah. Okay. Well, we did a lot of philosophizing today, but I also think we did some pretty good stuff there. I hope I've at least shaken your belief, Remiz, and got you to consider questioning.
I'm questioning and considering all the time. Yes.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. So the really specific thing to ask yourself is, how do you know it's me? And the only answer that's available to you is that you believe it. It's the mind, that part. You can be sure that the sensation is there, but to explain the sensation, and here's a good one. If you ever find that there's a words or anything that is about, if it's about something, it is conceptual. So when you're saying it's about that sensation, it's conceptual. So when you how you can question, really hone in on the details of it, is to say what is being experienced, and you can only describe it, pure description. Okay, so if you're using labels, that's a shorthand way of doing it, but you're in concept land again when you use labels. So when you try and describe it, you're not really describing it. Well, no, because that implies communicating what you're finding. So what you're trying to do is recognize.
I feel like the inquiry in the positive, like, who am I or where am I? It's like there's an assumption that there is me
Yes, exactly.
somewhere.
Yeah. And they're
So-
short inquiries, so don't go there. Don't do that.
So how to inquire in the opposite? And like,
Well, change the word inquiry. So inquiry also implies I'm going to think about it, right?
I mean,
that immediately
inquiry,
takes
like
you to the wrong place.
looking.
Yeah, just looking. Okay. So don't say inquiry, say I'm looking. There is just, now, even looking, you have to be a little bit careful that you're not looking for something that you're imagining or at something that you're labeling, right? So change looking to seeing, just seeing. And even then you can get a little bit trapped in it if you imagine that you're going to see something. So go back to then just the act of seeing, just the action that is seeing, just the experiencing that is seeing, right? And not seeing something, just the process of seeing itself. And even itself is not right. Just the process, just the experience of seeing. And the moment you can say what you're seeing, you're off in fantasy land. Because
Should I keep my sense of the sensations that is identified as me? Should I keep them in my attention?
just the sensation, yes. So as an experiment, give up the idea that they're a me. And did you hear what I said? The idea that they're a me. Give up the idea and just experience the sensation. And remember that if you say it's here or it feels like, you're in fantasy land. The seeing that I was talking about can also be the experience of feeling. Same thing in this sense. It's a verb, right? So it's not, there's no subject and there's no object. There is just the process that's going on. So you're experiencing a sensation. And you can locate it and you can feel the characteristics of it but not describe it. If you're describing it, you're up into concept land again. So we're below concept. So the experiencing of that sensation, it has qualities that you can definitely experience. And those qualities might include a location, they might include a color, they might include a temperature, they might include movement, they might include changing shape, they might include whatever. But again, the level of experiencing is that so detailed that it can't be described accurately. There aren't words to describe it accurately. Words will want to attach themselves to it. That's the nature of the mind. But if you just dismiss the words and come back to what it is that is being felt, like, so again, so even saying that's not right, you know, because it's what it is not an it. What it is, it's not, it's a movement. It's an energy, you might say. You can call it an energy even, because that implies a lot of the characteristics of a sensation. It's energy. But you can't bottle it. No scientist will find it. No surgeon will find it, because it's ever changing, it's only there because of the movement, because of the change.
It feels, the sensation feels very dynamic, like
It is dynamic.
uh,
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
even like trying to locate this sense of me is like it's all over the place. Like it's not
Yeah.
in one specific location.
Yeah. It doesn't have a home.
No. It's very, it's like liquid. It's like
Yes. Yes.
you can't capture it. You can. It's
Yeah. You got it. That's good. Yeah. And you don't own it, and it doesn't own you. There is no possibility of identification with it, because of that dynamism, because of that fluidity. It's now it's also possible that this level of appreciation for what actually is here can stimulate a fear response as well. because it's like giving up the armor. It's like suddenly there are no defenses anymore.
Yeah, I feel the contraction is
Yeah.
more noticeable.
Yeah. And that that's a distraction though from that. It's like it's a protective distraction from that. But in this case, it's not an unpleasant. The unpleasantness comes from the idea that we're unprotected. But if you can just chase down that dynamism and swim in it, swim in that energy that is the sensation, it will very likely be just a wonderful experience. Absolutely. Beyond description. Okay, time for me to go and cook tea. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.